Welcome, everyone, to the Better Love Movement podcast, where you will finally learn how to intentionally do dating and relationships right. My name is Anita Stoudemire, and I am a licensed professional therapist and your personal love mentor. I've worked with thousands of singles and couples, giving them the skills needed to attract and keep the amazing love they desire. It is my heart's work to help people to get the skills needed to not only become the very best versions of themselves, but to help them grow and evolve emotionally and relationally. You can absolutely have the romantic relationship of your dreams. Come and let me show you how. Welcome, everyone. Welcome back again to this week's episode of the Better Love Movement podcast. So I am excited for this week's guest and this week's topic because it is something that we talk about quite a bit here on the Better Love Movement podcast. So this is episode number 159 we are in this week. It is entitled Why Waiting Works. So today I am talking to Rob Kowalski of City Fam. Let me tell you a little bit about Rob. Rob Kowalski is a self-professed reformed bad boy with a riveting personal testimony, raised by a single mother with an 8th grade education who got pregnant with him at the age of 14 years old. Rob went on to become the most sought-after male stripper and then nightlife king of Baltimore, the city he grew up in. At 27 years of age, he had a radical encounter with Jesus Christ, at which point he did the most radical 180 a person can do, giving up his life of casual sex and addictions. Rob is now widely considered the #1 authority on sex, waiting for the right person, and overcoming loneliness in life during the wait. He is a best-selling author of Why Waiting Works, a coach, speaker, and host of Kowalski Analysis Podcast. His video entitled 10 Reasons Not to Have Sex Before Marriage made him a viral sensation on YouTube and became the #1 video in the world on the subject with almost 2 million views. But his role as founder of City Fam, the global movement of friends with better benefits on a mission to end loneliness, is closest to his heart. Welcome to the show, Rob.
Thank you so much. And I just want to commend you on how well you pronounce my last name.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So I stumbled across your platform on Instagram where I meet most of other content creators, and I absolutely love the content. So I'm following and I am, just trying to participate in your platform. Tell me a little bit about yourself and the Why Waiting Works movement.
Yeah. So you mentioned it before. My mom was really young when she had me. My dad was never in the same state. And we moved around a lot. We were very poor. And I was probably pretty insecure because I was always the new kid in schools. I think I went to like 11 different schools in 12 years. And I just really kind of learned how to be a man from television and movies because there was no guy to teach me how to be a man, really. And, I guess I thought if I'm good with girls, that makes me a man because that's what, that's kind of what television portrays. So from a very young age, I was girl crazy. And I remember when I was like 15 years old, I was just hitting puberty, and I found a videotape that my mom and her friends had rented. It was on the coffee table. I walked in one day after playing outside or whatever, and I saw this video, and I walked over to it. I grabbed it, walked up to the VCR. Some people are old enough to remember what those are. I popped it in the VCR, and on the television set were these male strippers. And I remember the thought that instantly popped in my head was, that's what I want to be when I grow up.
Wow.
And that's not normal, for a 15-year-old that, most kids want to be cops or astronauts or whatever. I wanted to be a male stripper. So when I was 19, I did that. I started stripping for an agency in Baltimore. And over the couple years, I worked my way up the ranks. I was working for every entertainment agency in the city and even in DC. I was like their #1 guy. I was in the phone book. I was making what I thought was a lot of money. I was having a lot of casual sex. And I thought, I guess on some level, I was like, I did it. This is what I wanted, and I did it, and I have everything that I thought I ever wanted. But there was a lot of problems that came along with it, especially in my relationships with women. Mm-hmm. And what would usually happen is I would have sex with a woman quickly, mm-hmm. a lot of one-night stands, and either I would immediately lose interest. I'm talking like from the moment I ejaculated that quick, yep. Or I would sometimes continue to sleep with the girl and we would drift into a relationship, but it was never really that great. And I would always be wondering if I could be happier with someone else, feeling kind of trapped. Started to wonder if maybe I wasn't the kind of guy that could fall in love. Maybe human beings aren't supposed to be monogamous. I had all these theories about why I couldn't be with just one, or at least be faithful to just one. And when I was 27 years old, I had never heard God's voice or felt his presence. I went to church sporadically as a kid. I even was in Christian schools a couple of years. I got expelled from two of them. I went to like 3 or 4 of them. I got expelled from 2. But I never felt it. I saw kids talk in tongues or whatever, and I just didn't know if it was real. But when I was 27, I got baptized in the Holy Spirit. It was a complete road to Damascus experience. I was not looking for God. No one touched me. God just spoke to me. It was in Cancun, Mexico. And he started off by telling me that he had someone for me, a woman. And he said, basically, if I would wait, allow him to do it, he would bring her into my life. And so that's really what started me down this journey of waiting, because I did not understand the concept at all. I thought it was dumb. I remember when I had a lot of sex because I didn't see anything wrong with it. I thought sex is like a massage. We'll make each other feel good. Why would we wait? That's silly. That's just what society tells you need to do, so you don't want to look like a slut or whatever. And it was only in time from doing it really for selfish reasons. The reason I waited was because I figured if I didn't saying God would give me this woman, and I wanted to fall in love because I knew at that point I made the decision to follow Jesus. I was convinced that he was who he said he was from that moment on, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm signing up to be a one-woman man, so I better let God pick her, because I'm not very good at it, obviously. So I'm like, okay, God, I'll wait, but you better hurry up, because I can't wait long when it comes to sex. And I thought I could kind of, I don't want to say manipulate God, but I did feel like I had, I was the one that was in control. Like, hey, you better hurry up, or I'm going to go out and start having sex again. Yep. And it turned, and I thought it was going to be like a couple weeks or maybe a month or something. And it turned into 6 years of me waiting, no sex, no dating, even, because I was waiting for God. And that's what was really birthed my passion for community, because when I became a Christian, I was like, I cut off all my friends. So like I had to change everything about my life to follow Jesus. I had to quit my job. I broke up with my girlfriend. Wow. Young hot girlfriend I was having sex with. Had to cut off all my friends because I didn't even know any Christians really. And I started going to church on Sunday. But outside of that, I really didn't have anything else going on. 6.5 days a week, I was sitting around the house trying to figure out how to live, just as a Christian. And I became very lonely and depressed, honestly, because I was like, I didn't have any community of any kind. So I started looking for a group. I was like, there's got to be other people out here that are like me, because I didn't relate to church people. Right. I thought they were really nice, but outside of Sundays, there really wasn't a whole lot going on. Yeah. And then I didn't meet many people that I would necessarily have done life with anyway. Right. I thought they were nice, but I didn't feel like they were like me. So found myself pretty much, staying at home, not sure what to do or who to deal with every weekend. And I thought, well, if I just don't sin long enough, God will give me a wife. So then it became isolation. First, I looked around for a group. I went to Christian coffee houses. I went to, different churches that I heard that maybe had a young adult thing or whatever. And there was just nothing out there. And I just was like, all right, I'm going to wait it out. And, like I said, it turned into 6 years. I saw a lot of movies over those 6 years on the weekends, because I didn't know what else to do. And every 3 months or so, I would get so pent up with energy of wanting to be around people that I would go out to like a bar downtown and I would meet some of my old friends, and I would drink too much, or I'd feel tempted to hook up with a girl, and I would get scared. So I'd stay in for another 3 months because I didn't want to sin. Right. And that was a pattern that lasted 6 years. And it was probably the worst time of my life, in all honesty. And then eventually, after those 6 years, I backslid and I fell back into sexual sin and made a ton of mistakes after that. Rededicated my life a few years later after making a mess. And then I went through the exact same thing for about a year, where I was very involved in my church, but bored and lonely every weekend. And I was like, there's got to be a better way to do this. And at that point, I was really understanding the practicality of waiting, because somewhere along the line of like living at those polar ends of the spectrum, it really gave me just a really different viewpoint, I think, than maybe most people have, because people try to argue with me. I'm like, listen, I've done what you've done. You haven't done what I've done.
Yep.
So I'm around that time I started organizing events because I was really trying to like overcome my own Christian boredom.
Mm-hmm.
And I, in addition to the fact that I felt like this was my way to reach the lost, because I couldn't get my friends to come to church, but I was like, well, I can put on a social event for myself and my other friends from church that are lonely, and they'll probably come. And then I can invite my old friends that won't come to church with me to those events because they're looking for fun.
Yeah.
And if it's edgy enough, they might come. So that's what I started doing, and it turned into what is now City Fam.
Wow.
Seen a lot of hundreds of people get saved through it. And around that time when we were starting out, I was looking to get the word out about City Fam, because I did see a lot of people getting saved. I'm like, wow, this is awesome. There's got to be more people out there that are like me, that are staying in every weekend, and I got to find them. So I was like, I need a platform. So I thought, well, if I write a book, that might give me a chance to get on some podcasts. And I thought, well, the only book I could write would be about sex. So I made a YouTube video. That's the one you mentioned, went viral, wrote a book, and now it really has become the front door for how people find us. And even though City Fam isn't the abstinent group, I like to always mention that, because, you're going to lose a lot of people if you tell them it's the abstinent group. It's not.
Right.
It's the group that believes in becoming the best version of themselves and helping each other do that. So that might mean for you saving sex for marriage. It might mean for you getting sober. But it might not necessarily mean that. Maybe you can drink in moderation. So we just want to help each other self-actualize, reach our full potential. And we really believe that it takes community to do that. You can't be the best version of yourself by yourself. There's no way. It's just too hard to make the right decisions over and over the long term unless you have a group that can inspire you and support you and encourage you. You just won't make it. What happened to me is what will happen to you. Well, maybe not exactly that, but I white knuckled the crap out of it for 6 years. And then eventually I backslid, and it was inadvertent.
Right.
So, and I see that happen a lot for people when they're trying to get sober, or whatever they're trying to do. And they keep going back to that bad behavior because they can't manage the lifestyle.
Right.
Or they get into a relationship, they date out of loneliness because they get like I did. And I surely would have done that. I surely would have dated out of loneliness, except that God told me I have someone, and if you wait, I'll bring her. So I didn't have that luxury. So, and that's just how people get, end up divorced or with babies' mamas, because they're lonely. Community will fix a lot of that. Like, we just had this potluck pool party yesterday. 30 people were growing out, and it was fun. But if I didn't have that, what would I done on a Sunday afternoon as a single guy? I mean, that's where people get really thirsty. They're like, they need to date. That's why they're on the dating apps, working them like a second job, because they don't want to be alone.
Right.
So we really believe that City Fam can fix that. And our mission is to end loneliness. So long answer. Thank you.
Yeah, no. And I can 100% agree with that. One of the messages that I have for not just my platform, but any other platform that I engage in, is that we, as a modern day society, we're getting away from that. We're getting away from that. We have this hyper independent, I can do it all by myself. I mean, we feel that way about a lot of things, our success or anything. And I'm like, no, we need each other. We are social creatures. We need community. So if we're going to be good at something, we need other people to be involved. That's not a bad thing. So I love that part about it, because I agree that's true for even where I live here in Virginia. Churches are not seen as cool. However, there are places, like I'm going to an event tonight, Transformation RVA, and that's a place that's outside of church, but they have a men's group, they have a women's group, they talk about relationships and dating. And I'm like, yes, this is what we need. We need to come together and not just stay isolated and sit at home away from each other. So
or in our holy huddles on Sunday, which is what people do. The churches do a lot. And if you look at the first century church, they were always together. It says every day they were in each other's houses, breaking bread, fellowship, prayer, devoted themselves to the teaching. It's like they were doing life together. And it said the Lord added to their number daily those who are being saved. The church has to get back to that, because if not, we're going to continue to shrink and lose relevance. Because right now the average church leads less than 10 people to Jesus a year. And it's because people don't necessarily want to go to church, but they do want community.
Right. Right. I 100% agree. So we're going to talk about abstinence today because I think this is an important subject. It's one of my favorite topics. And here on my platform, I speak to my ladies all the time about the wait and the importance of doing the work before attempting to date or court. But I want you to share a few of your reasons why waiting is so important for finding genuine love and marriage.
Yeah. Well, I think it starts off with the differences between men and women. And sometimes people get mad at me when I say this, but if you boil it all the way down to the base, women want security and men want sex. Okay. This is and if I can prove it to you, if we were dating, you and I, who's going to determine when we have sex the first time, you or me? You are. 100% of the time. Who determines when we get married? By proposing? Me. I control the security, you control the sex. So like when a woman gives sex before she gets security, which is marriage, real security, she's giving and she's not getting, and the man is getting but he's not giving, which is why the world looks at her as a slut and him as a stud. And I'm not saying it's right, it's not right. But what happens is the woman puts herself in a position of disadvantage because now she's given her part and the man hasn't. And guess what? He's not as motivated anymore because he's already getting the sex. So what's the rush? And then you can see people getting these long drawn out, whatever relationships where she's holding out for the proposal and it may or may not come. He's wasting her time, making it harder for her to find somebody because we're all getting uglier. You know what I mean? Like none of it, for the most part. But I'm just saying, like, men will drag their feet and because if they can get all the benefits without the responsibility, of the commitment, then they will. At our hearts, we're all selfish. And this is what I tell, people, because I understand save sex for marriage. It sounds so extreme, but this is what I try to frame it as. It's like, what if I said to you, no sex before love? People would go, okay, yeah, I can understand that. I get my mind around that one. Okay, great. If I was to say, Anita, I love you, let's have sex. We were dating. You'd be like, sure, Rob, I love you too. Let's just run to the justice of the peace real quick. I'd be like, let me think about this a little bit longer. Because now the heart's deceitful, the Bible says. Now I'm going to find out, is my heart lying to me or not? Because I know that a divorce will be painful. So I'm going to ask myself the really hard questions to find out, because it could just be my flesh. So like, and this is the one thing I like to always tell women, because I think the biggest thing the enemy's going to tell you to get you to not do this is going to be fear. His number one tactic is fear. He tried to get me to not make this decision with my girlfriend 10 years ago when I rededicated my life. And he basically told me, the lie that he told me was, if you're only having sex with her, it ain't that bad. If you don't have sex with her, you're going to turn into a man whore again. That'll be a lot worse. You better just stay, having sex with her. And it sounded like a reasonable excuse, but I didn't. I listened to God anyway. And I told my girlfriend, look, I'm not sure if we're really in love. Well, I told her, I'm not sure if we're built to last. We fought a lot. I said, here's what we're going to find out. So we cut off the sex. 3 weeks later, we broke up. Okay. So this is what I tell women though, like the old me, when I was a man whore, if a woman would have came to me and said, I'm waiting, I would have been like, I'm out. Peace. Right. But if a woman tells me, this new me, that she's waiting, guess what I do? I lean in. I'm like more interested, because I don't want to date a girl that's not waiting, because I've been doing the work on myself and waiting. But if a girl tells me she's not waiting now, guess what I do? Peace. I'm out. I don't want to date a girl. I don't want to date a hoe. Like, not to say, look, a reformed hoe, sure. But I'm like somebody, if you want to compare it to physical fitness, I'm like somebody that used to be really overweight. I've been going to the gym. I got myself in shape. Now I want to date somebody else that's in shape. Before, when I was out of shape, I would date out of shape people too. It didn't matter. But and then the relationships were always crap. So like, you're not going to attract what you want. You're going to attract who you are.
That's right. And been there, done that. I have talked to my platform ad nauseum about 100% of the men that I have slept with before marriage, I'm not with anymore. 100%. So now I said, well, it's got to be better than that. Let's try something different. And so that's what I'm encouraging them to do. Like, I have the proof as well. And so now I'm trying something different, something that I have not tried before, which is hopefully one day getting married and then, consummating that marriage, because I haven't tried that before. So to me, you got nothing to lose.
Awesome. And the beauty of, so there's a great TED talk called How Your Brain Falls in Love that I reference regularly. And it talks about oxytocin. Oxytocin is the bonding hormone. So women release that hormone when they orgasm. Men do not. Men release that hormone when they commit. So that tells you right there that God had it right. Because if we were to wait to our wedding night, the woman would give her body, the man would give his last name, and the two would cleave together. And that would create a family unit that would preserve them through all the storms of life, so they could raise the kids and all that. But guess what happens? The woman releases the oxytocin. Then she starts chasing the man because she's emotionally attached now.
Right.
She gets a pair bond and he doesn't. So, and then what happened? But this is what would always happen with me. Is I would be having sex with a girl for, let's say, 3 months. Meanwhile, I'm sleeping with other women on the side. I'm not committed to them, so it's nothing wrong with that. I'm not necessarily telling them either. But then it would get to the point where I couldn't play the non-committal game anymore. They were we was causing too many problems in the relationship, and they were either going to leave me and go date somebody else, or I had to make them my girlfriend. So sometimes I would make them my girlfriend out of obligation, because I felt like these girls have put up with enough of my crap, and they deserve to be my girlfriend, which is not a smart thing to do. It wasn't love; it was obligation. So that's what it does, and I call it the sex trap. You know, like listening to the Elvis song the other day. He says, "We're caught in a trap. I can't get out."
Yeah,
that's what it is. You get, and I see people. I know I have a friend, and he's been in a relationship for like 20 years with this girl. Complained about her the whole time, doesn't want to be with her, but he's stuck, and he's got a soul tie. He don't even know probably what a soul tie is, but it's so obvious to see. And I'm sure your listeners probably have friends that they see that are people in terrible relationships, but for whatever reason they can't get out because the sex did what it was designed to do. It attached them together. And now they're stuck.
That's it. And one of the things that we were debating yesterday on Facebook in another group was this idea of, when women sleep with men, we're married, right? Once sex happens in a woman's mind, and she doesn't even realize this, but in her subconscious, that becomes her husband. And she will continue to try to reconnect. Where is he gone? Why isn't he called? Why isn't he texted? Like, sex is marriage in a woman's mind once she's bonded to that man. And I tell a lot of women, it's not even something you can fully control. This is evolutionary psychology we're talking about. I talk about this all the time on my platform. It's going to happen.
Biology.
So, that conscious mind saying, no, I can have friends with benefits. I can have casual sex. No. Evolutionary psychology wins, my friend, every time. So it is what it is. Okay.
Yeah, it's a dangerous place to be for a woman, because for sure, I would sleep with women in the past, and they would tolerate a lot of bad behavior after that. Obviously, even infidelity, girlfriends, because they were so, like you said, attached to me, that they would put up with, and that's not good, right? You don't want to be, having that unfair advantage, having given someone that unfair advantage over you, because you want the man to prove his words with action. Right. And that's what marriage does. I mean, this guy stepping up to love, committing to love, honor, and respect you. At that point, that's great. Now, look, there's no guarantees either. I mean, still might end up in a divorce, but the numbers support what I'm saying a heck of a lot more, because this is what people try to say, oh, you're crazy or whatever. I'm like, the divorce rate's 50% for people that don't wait. 97% of people don't wait, and the divorce rate's 50%. What are you talking about? If try before you buy worked, why would that be? It doesn't work. Taking a car for a test drive does not work, obviously.
No.
And a test drive is once anyway. You done stole it.
Yeah. No. Okay, so in your opinion, what are some of the stumbling blocks to remaining abstinent?
Wow.
What tends to trip people up while they're waiting? Because this is something that I get a lot in the DM.
I think number one is obviously how we're all wired, right? Well, I mean, I desire sex, and it's been a long time since I've had regular sex. I've had 2 isolated mistakes in the last 10 years, and they were just accidental. So it's been hard. And I think that that's number one. And then I think that a lot of it too is FOMO, right? Because you feel like at some point you start thinking, this is there, maybe God's wrong, or society's right, or you see your friends that look like they're in happy relationships and they did it the wrong way. Right. So then you start questioning all that, right? Because I've questioned it all, where I'm like, God, what the hell more could you want from me? So I think that would probably be my top 2. And I think, if you get into a relationship with somebody and they say all the right things, it's just going to be really difficult to wait. If if they're the right person, or at least if you think they're the right person, it's going to be hard to wait. It should be,
Right.
because if you're not wanting to tear their pants off,
Right.
then they're
Right.
probably not the right person if you're
I
dating.
agree. I
So,
agree.
so like it's going to be like running a marathon to make it to your wedding night. It's going to be difficult for you to get there. But I believe it's like, I kind of compared it before to Thanksgiving, where you walk in your mom's house and you smell the food cooking and you're hungry.
Right.
And you could eat a sandwich, if you wanted to, but if you wait,
Mhm.
the meal's going to taste so much better. You work up
That's
an
right.
appetite for each other. That's why I believe God the way he wants to do it. And it's supposed to be hard.
Right.
But yeah, I think that those are the main things probably.
Okay. Well, one of the things that I was reminded of recently, and I had to hand write this scripture out about the broad path, that the broad path leads to destruction. Like that's what everyone's on, is the broad path. And so sometimes when I feel that temptation, I just pull that scripture in Matthew out and I just hand write it.
Yeah.
That it's the broad path that is leading to destruction. And I know this message isn't, uber popular, and yes, it's a narrow path. It's a narrow path. I have explained this to people over and over, but I also remember the scripture, trying to remember where it is. I'm horrible at, memorizing scripture, but I do remember the scripture that talks about do not grow weary in waiting. And I hand write that one out too. I'm like, okay, what's the do not grow weary in waiting? I have to write that one out over and over and over.
Yeah, for at the proper time, you will receive a harvest if you don't give up. But I think, as you were saying that, I think you have to adjust so much in your life to do this, because there's so many things that you can't do anymore. Like for the most part, I can't hang out with a girl alone. Like even just, let's say it's Friday night and I want to have a girl over to my house to watch a movie. So one of the times I messed up, that was exactly how it happened. We were just chilling at my house. Next thing you know, we started making out and I couldn't stop. I couldn't pull the emergency brake. So for years, I didn't spend any time alone with women. Now, occasionally I will, but I still don't think I would just have a girl over my house to watch a movie, because it'd be just too dangerous. Or so I got girlfriends that I like being around. They're cute. I think they're a little attracted to me. I'm probably a little attracted to them. But we're not going to marry each other. I think we both know that. Right. So, I could go away. A friend of mine's going to see her family. They got this big house up in the country. I'd love to go away with her for a weekend, just hang out. But I can't, because I know I'm going to want to have sex if I do that. And I don't even want to put in the position. So it's like, you're going to have to adjust a lot of things about your life. You're going to have some lonely nights for sure. It's going to be a roller coaster of emotions in all likelihood. How bad do you want it? It got, so many good things have came out of it for me. I wrote a book, started a nonprofit. I believe in something called sex transmutation, where you can take the sexual energy and harness it and use it for other things. So I think that's what, during those seasons of singleness, while you're waiting, you can really get some cool stuff done that you wouldn't be able to do more than likely if you're in a relationship. Now I believe that when God gives me that woman, I have something really cool to bring her into. Right. Before 10 years ago, I had nothing going on. I was a washed up nightclub promoter. I didn't even know what I was going to do with my life. And now God's done all these really cool things. And John Etheridge from Wild at Heart says, a woman wants to play an irreplaceable part in a great adventure. So now I have a great adventure to bring that woman into, and I'm going to take her on a fun adventure when it happens. And it's hard to build that though, and be patient with God and let him develop that. Right. But it is absolutely the right order. Right, for sure. And our hope is that woman is your purpose partner. That woman is your helpmeet, that she's someone that's going to come alongside you in that adventure. And I'm telling men that all the time, that the right woman is not going to pull you away from that. She's going to come alongside you in that. She's going to be your purpose partner. She's going to push you to even further greatness. So that's the thing. I'm telling men, that if that woman is pulling you away from what you're doing or your purpose or what you're passionate about, that is not the right person. So, but I hear you about the boundaries, because one of the boundaries that I have now is I don't invite men to my house ever. I don't go to their house. We go on dates. We go out in groups. We go out into the world, and that's how we're getting to know each other. And we're intentional. We are incredibly intentional. I have no problem telling a man when he says, "Oh, what are you looking for?" Well, I look forward to being a wife again one day. Yeah, I let him know from out of the gate.
I look forward to being a wife again one day. I've been married, I'm divorced, but now my kids are grown and I look forward to being a wife again one day. Not a girlfriend, because I'm too old to be a girl and I don't need more friends, I need a husband. And I'd let a man know that straight out of the gate so that we can be intentional. I don't think this process should take years and years. I think that's how people mess up too. They get into a relationship and then a year goes by and then see, now we're in the danger zone because I've met a person I'm attracted to. I've met a person that I like. And the longer that goes on, we're in that danger zone. So I tell people, date intentionally. And it shouldn't take 5 years. It should take 12 months, maybe a year. To a year and a half.
6 months. I
Right.
could do it in 6. Look, when you know, you know. I
Right.
was talking to Jackie Dorman, and she's interviewed all these couples that had these really long, successful relationships. I'm talking like 50 years plus. Every one of them had the same thing in common. They all got met and married in less than 4 months.
Wow.
I'm like, wow, I was surprised to
Okay.
hear that. I always
Yeah.
thought 6 months would be enough for me to know, because look, I want to have sex. I don't
See?
want to get into some 3-year freaking engagement.
Right.
Like denying myself. If you're the right person,
Right,
what are we
right.
waiting for?
Right.
So like, yeah, I 100% agree. And don't give that man wife privileges while you're only his girlfriend.
Nope. But do you know, I have come to the point in my journey where I am not ever going to be a girlfriend. And I know that you talk about radical. I am going to date, get to know, or court or date. And when that man makes his intention known, okay, then I will be a fiance. And then I will be a wife. Like, I don't even do girlfriend.
I love it.
I do the person that you're getting to know or that you're dating or courting. And we could go and have pre-engagement counseling. Like I'm down for all of that, but I'm not doing the girlfriend thing.
Yep. You know what that screams? That you know your worth.
Oh, for sure. I'm
That's
good.
what, when women tolerate that, they don't know their worth.
Right. But no, I'm good. I'm good. Like I said, but I want you, we're going to, come together and we're going to decide if we're each other's purpose person. That's all. And if we're not, I mean, it's cool. I have plenty of guys that I'm great friends with because we determined early on that, oh yeah, we're not each other's purpose person, or we're incompatible in some way. And, they're great people. So I love to have them in my life. But yeah, once we figured that out, okay, we're good. And we can go on to get to know someone else. So
no hard feelings, right?
There you go. There you go. This has been a great conversation. And let me tell you something. It's a conversation that my ladies needed to hear. They love it when men come on the platform because it's not just coming from me. I'm like, nope, let me get a guy to tell you what I've been telling you. Let me get a man to tell you the truth. So they're going to love this conversation. Thank you so much, Rob, for coming on the platform. Is there a product or a service that you'd like to tell us more about or that the listeners should go check out?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. You can get a copy of the book, a free copy at whywaitingworks.com. It comes, you have to pay for shipping and handling, $9.95, but you get a bunch of bonuses. I actually have a small group curriculum that goes with it. So now we have groups that are meeting around the country. They're doing a small group around the book, and some of them are actually becoming City Fam chapters, continuing to do life together, doing social events and service events together, because it does make the wait a lot easier when you have community, like we mentioned earlier. So I definitely send people there. If you want to check out City Fam, the best thing to do would be to join the Facebook group, and that you can do that by going to friendswithbetterbenefits.com. We have it redirected to take you to Facebook, and it's free to join that. We maybe connect you with other people in your area. That's something that we're doing now. Okay. And if you want to follow me on any social media, it's I'm on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, pretty much those. At Rob B. Kowalski. So two B's, ROBBKOWALSKI.
Okay. Yes. And I'm going to put all of this information in the show notes, ladies, everywhere where you can connect with Rob. I have connected with him through the Facebook group, which I think is amazing. I also last night ordered your book and got some of the freebies, and I've been like looking at them. I looked at the interview you did with Jackie Dorman, and I was, as soon as I saw, so it was get married in 12 months or less, I was like, click. I was like, yes.
That's clickbaity right there.
Yes. But it worked because and I watched that last night.
She's sharp.
I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. So yes, I am kind of I'm going to read the book and talk more about it and some of the content that I'm creating because, yeah, I want to learn. I'm still learning. I'm still learning and growing, and I'm helping other people on their journey too. So thank you. Thank you so much. Ladies, if you're not subscribed to the podcast, please do so now so that you can be alerted every Monday when a new episode comes out. Please rate and review the podcast wherever you are listening to it. If you are watching this on YouTube, as I know you are, please do me the biggest favor ever and subscribe to the podcast. This is a free way that you can support the platform, and it helps me to be able to create more content for you. If you'd like to know more about me and all of the services that I offer, please head over to www.betterlovemovement.com. You can find out all about coaching, all about my books that I've written, all about the t-shirts that we have and the merch and all of that good stuff over there on the website. If you have a question, you can send it to info@betterlovemovement.com. I often do IG lives for my questions that I receive, or I will even do a YouTube video answering your question. So please send it over there. Thank you so much again, Rob, for joining us here on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. It was awesome.
Yep. And as always, ladies, stay open to love. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the Better Love Movement podcast. If you are not subscribed to the podcast, please do so now so that you can be alerted every Monday when a new episode comes out. Please rate and review this podcast, as your ratings help me to grow the podcast and offer more free content to you. If you are watching this episode on YouTube, please do me a huge favor and subscribe to the channel. Give this video a thumbs up and share it if it brought you value. If you have a question that you would like to have answered on the show, please send it to me at info@betterlovemovement.com. You can also reach me on my website, www.betterlovemovement.com, to get more information on love mentoring and other services offered. Thank you so much for listening, and as always, stay open to love.